If the United States were to preemptively blockade the Strait of Hormuz, global markets would immediately brace for an energy crisis. But for India, this choke point controls a different lifeline: the chemical imports required to prevent mass starvation. India is an agricultural giant, tasked with feeding 1.4 billion people. Yet, to grow every single crop in the country, the soil requires three primary nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. India controls almost none of them. This means the nation that pioneered the Green Revolution is now uniquely vulnerable. Domestic food security is tethered to foreign naval movements and the safe passage of chemical carriers. This chart starts in 1951. Farmers applied under half a kilo of fertilizer per hectare for 536 kilos of grain. Over 70 years, yields grew fivefold, but the fertilizer required to reach them exploded by 280 times. This divergence shows India's agricultural output is no longer proportional to the health of the land. Instead, we are substituting natural fertility with an ever-increasing volume of external chemical support just to maintain current levels of food production. When the math shifts this violently, it points to a systemic dependency. The most immediate threat to our food supply isn't just an external blockade. It is the fact that our crops can no longer grow without a massive, imported chemical intervention. This dependency was born out of necessity. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, India was devastated by frequent famines that claimed millions of lives. The country was trapped in a cycle of starvation that traditional farming could not break. Everything changed with the Haber-Bosch process. This chemical equation allowed scientists to pull nitrogen from the air and combine it with hydrogen from natural gas to create ammonia, the primary ingredient in modern fertilizer. But the ingredients for this miracle are geographically concentrated. Nitrogen requires cheap gas from the Middle East. Phosphorus is mostly found in Morocco and China, and the world's potash is largely controlled by Canada and Russia. To end the threat of famine, India had to link its food security to these global supply chains, placing the survival of its population in the hands of foreign powers. To protect farmers from the volatile prices of these imports, the Indian government heavily subsidizes urea. While the market cost of a bag is roughly 2,200 rupees, the government sells it to farmers for only 242 rupees. For Indian soil to remain healthy, it requires a balanced application of nutrients, specifically a ratio of 4 parts nitrogen, 2 parts phosphorus, and 1 part potassium. However, because urea is artificially cheap, it is used excessively. In Punjab, farmers are dumping so much nitrogen that the ratio has skewed to an imbalanced 31 to 8 to 1, nearly 8 times the nitrogen the soil can actually process. By making the chemicals affordable, the government inadvertently created a financial incentive for farmers to saturate and damage their own land. This massive nitrogen overload eventually kills the vital soil microbes that keep land fertile. Over time, rich, organic farmland becomes unresponsive, turning into dead dirt. Because the dead soil can no longer absorb the nutrients, the excess fertilizer washes into the groundwater. This runoff has led to dangerous levels of nitrate and uranium contamination in the water used by local communities. The farmer is then caught in a trap. Because the biology of the soil is broken, they must apply even more fertilizer the following year just to prevent the harvest from collapsing. This is the mechanic of the doom loop. Dead soil requires more imported chemicals, which demand higher government subsidies, leading to the further degradation of the land. The financial cost of maintaining this cycle is unsustainable. The government is spending more on fertilizer subsidies than it does on national health care or education, effectively paying to continue the destruction of its own resources. Switching to entirely organic methods isn't an immediate solution. At a national scale, the resulting drop in yield would leave approximately 300 million people without enough food to eat. India cannot afford the rising cost of these chemicals, but it cannot survive without them. Breaking the loop requires a way to feed the crops without further damaging the soil biology. One potential solution is nanourea. This liquid technology is designed to be sprayed directly onto the leaves of the plant via drones, bypassing the ground and the dead soil microbes entirely. This method increases nitrogen absorption efficiency from 40% to nearly 90%. If scaled, it could eliminate the government's subsidy burden for urea while significantly reducing chemical runoff. However, technology only addresses one part of the problem. Even with nano-urea, India remains dependent on foreign reserves for the phosphorus and potash required to complete the nutrient profile. In the modern era, power belongs to the nations that control agricultural technology and the supply chains that feed their people. The challenge for India is to scale these local innovations before the soil becomes too degraded to respond to them.